The new Acadia is absolutely massive. I'll include a link to the Jerry Signer GMC's website in the description down below. Also include a link to my car buying guide. Let's get right into the review. Under the hood, we have a turbo 2.5 liter 4-cylinder that goes through an 8-speed. Fuel economy is 20 around town, 23 on the highway, with power outputs being 328 horsepower and then 326 pound-feet of torque. I'm trying to hit 500,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I'd really appreciate it if you'd help out with that. Now, like most GM vehicles, they've got a very boxy design for the hood. And then, of course, the signature C-shape for the headlights, blacked out grille with this elevation package, and then we do have fog lights at the bottom. Altogether, I think the new style looks great with a lot of the boxy elements. Tire and wheel setup is 275 by 45 by 22. Wheels are completely blacked out, and you've got kind of more of a street-oriented tire with this. Got these chunky unpainted fender flares. Acadia there on the side also blacked out. Same thing with the mirror cap. If we take a look at the side profile, you can see, again, very large vehicle, but boxiness is the theme with the design. When it comes to key fob features, we've got the GMC logo on the back, lock and unlock on the front, remote starts, and then the opening for the rear hatch. Now with the third row seats, you've got a manual system, so straps to pull them in place, and then also you pull the strap and then throw it forward to lower the seat. But even with the third row folded up, there is a ton of storage space in the rear. When you're all done, a little button right there to lower the hatch down. The taillights still have that C-shaped theme, and then you've got a lot of blacked out elements there at the top, and then the badges down below also blacked out. And there is one exhaust tip per cylinder with this car. That will cap things off for the exterior of this Acadia. Keyless entry even for the rear. Let's pop in. We've got soft touch at the top. We've got this kind of wood-looking trim, but definitely not real wood. And then there is some stitching down below. More nice trim on the seats, again stitching down the center, and then on the sides you've got your manual adjustments for the seat too. Legroom is fantastic in the second row. A little storage pocket, cup holders. We've got our own climate zone in the rear as well. There's vents throughout the top for added airflow, and then headroom with that box design is fantastic. Now the third row has a decent amount of legroom. Again, this is similar in size to a previous gen Tahoe. We also have a little USB port on either side in the third row. Let's now check out the front. Blind spot monitoring with the mirrors, and then the front window is automatic. All the rest are not, funny enough. And by the way, the front door panel has all that same nice trim as the second row door panel. Soft touch seats up front with more of that stitching. The driver has power adjustments and lumbar support. The passenger also has power adjustments and lumbar support. Off to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, you have your shortcut for your auto stop start, your all-wheel drive mode, and then your drive mode select, as well as the parking brake. Let's hear that 4-cylinder roar. Nice soft touch trim all around the steering wheel. You've got some silver trim throughout to make it look a bit more premium. We've got physical buttons for the center screen. You also have your heated steering wheel function, voice command controls. There are radio controls in the back of the steering wheel, as well as paddle shifters. On the left-hand side over here, we've got our cruise controls. This also comes with a column shifter from the factory, and here is that center digital gauge cluster. So I do think, I've said this in the past, that GM needs to kind of change the lighting on this and maybe even the angle of the screen. The glare compared to a lot of other automakers is just quite bad, but very customizable in terms of what you have displayed in the center, and it lets you know the drive line. Right now we're in front wheel drive mode. 360 camera system, good resolution with the whole system. You can see out of a bunch of different angles of the vehicle. Now, as for the infotainment system itself, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, that's really all you need in a modern vehicle, but a little shortcut bar there at the top. And then down below, yes, some major vehicle functions like your headlights are built into the screen. And then the climate controls are at the bottom. They're always accessible, including the control for the radio. And this just has heated seats, dual zone climate, no cold seats. Wireless phone charging pad below all of that. Got some cup holders. Big center console. There is nice trim on the top of the center console. This also comes equipped with a camera rear view mirror. No sunroof with this particular one. 2026 Acadia Elevation, $53,225. Let's see how this performs. Let's go off-roading in the Acadia for like 2 seconds. And then we'll be on-roading. You know what? I bet you if we ever get into a world where there's less driving, that'll become a hobby, right? because you know people used to go out and explore to like make a new life, right? I mean, in the US we all know about that, but you know, eventually it's going to get to the point where like exploring is going to be like, instead of getting into a self-driving something, you'll be driving yourself, maybe. We'll see. Now, over these bumps and everything, the suspension's actually pretty good. This is a pretty long wheelbase vehicle, independent suspension, front and rear unibody. Actually does a pretty good job for what it is, all things considered. Pretty darn nice. Now, GM has heavily invested in electric cars and in small displacement engines. I mean, you look at it in every single one of their vehicles. Yeah, I think everything has either an EV or a 4-cylinder option, and some even only have like a 3-cylinder option. It's kind of just what GM's gone all in on, and it's an interesting choice. You know, when it comes to performance, this is a pretty torquey 4-cylinder. And the transmission's pretty quick to respond, but it doesn't feel quite as smooth as the old V6. And even though on paper it has more power, it's hard to make a 4-cylinder feel just quite, because you don't have that response that the V6 has. It's hard to make it feel as strong. That's what you have with the V6. Now I will say the sound insulation overall is pretty good. You do hear a bit of tire noise though, and that's kind of par for the course with a lot of these modern cars. It seems like manufacturers have done a pretty good job with getting rid of not all but a lot of the wind noise. The biggest thing nowadays is just the tire noise, and I think a big part of that, tire noise has always been a thing, but it is a bigger thing today because manufacturers are putting bigger and bigger wheels and tires on cars, and so there's just more that's going to make noise. Yeah, again, like, not bad. Actually, I mean, the top end's kind of 4-cylinder is always kind of iffy on the top end, but it's pretty darn smooth, all things considered. But the other thing that kind of makes these 4-cylinders, in my opinion, not seem as appealing is the fact that the fuel economy is not really better than a 6-cylinder. It's all about emissions rather than fuel economy, and it's like, I don't know, it feels like a little bit of a downside for the consumer, right? And the torque is great, and the shift speed is pretty snappy. I like it. I mean, this is a great, I mean, in terms of just people movers, this is top notch. Unibody, so you've got plenty of floor space, right? Body and frame always pushes things up. Independent suspension also helps out with the interior space. So you got tons of interior space, and it's just a big vehicle. It's over 200 inches. So you've got this large vehicle, tons of interior space, and it's got good payload. I didn't show the sticker, but it's like 1,500–1,600 pounds, something like that. So it's got pretty good payload. So altogether, I think it's a great people mover. I do think though, with the new lack of restrictions, there's still restrictions, but now that there's fewer restrictions on bigger engines, I do think that GM should consider putting some bigger engines in some of their cars again, and obviously making sure those bigger engines are reliable, because you know there have been some issues with stuff like the 6.2 V8, 5.3 V8, but well, time will tell. I don't think they're gonna do that anytime soon. I think they're gonna stick with the turbos, and you know, we'll see how reliable these turbos are long term. It seems like they've been able to make the 2.7 pretty good now, but even at that, the fuel economy thing is something that really kind of, for me, it's not the end of the world, but it is kind of a downside. It's like, well, if I'm gonna have to go to a smaller, worse sounding, worse performing engine, right, it has more power but it doesn't feel quite as smooth, I at least want to save on gas, and when you don't even save on gas, it feels kind of disappointing. And last thing on gas, because you can decouple the rear end with this, since you can choose whether it's all-wheel drive or not, that will help you save on fuel if you have it in the 2-wheel drive mode. Let me know your thoughts.